Hi, I am IT PhD and today we continue our adventures in C language. And in our past lesson we now know about functions, and we made our entry point to the program main function much more prettier. So here we only process user input and stuff like when user has to enter his name or fighting with the goblin, it's in separate function. But still, you see, it's quite now it's quite hard to work within this program, still go back and forward, because it's one file. So later on you will have huge files, and to make life easier and to make compilation faster and to make your code safer, because there is a visibility for each source file, it's different visibility. So it's kind of what people do, they move your functions to different files. Now we have only one file, 1.c, so let's, by the way, rename it to main.c. It's kind of more common thing. And let's make our project more complex. So we will move this function, this battle function, we'll move it to separate file. How to do so? We just create a new file. We will call it like battle.c. Yes. Now, if we just Control X this file and paste it here, how to use it? You remember that with include directive we could include different files. So if we use these brackets, then you can get it from special folder, so like from library folder, which defined by your compilator. But if you want to link here a file which stays somewhere, for example, this file battle will stay at the same directory, you just put it to the quotes. So it's battle.c. And now if we will compile this, so let me do it not via script but through command prompt like cmd. So now if we will say gcc main.c, ta-da! You see we have our AXE, so we could run our program. Wait. Okay, it's but because it's bat file. So yeah, you could it's cmd. I summoned cmd, it's not a PowerShell. So now we could fight with our goblin. So basically, what does it mean? When you include something, you simply copy and paste other file. So we take this stuff from battle C, compilator takes this stuff when he see include, and he just pastes it here. The same goes with this library. So compiler, when he just start compilation process, he take all stuff from standard input output library and paste it here. And then he do not include everything from there. Then he kind of optimize it and he include only necessary thing, because this library has a lot of stuff, and if he will have a lot of stuff there, our file will have very big size, our binary file. So then it's kind of takes only necessary things. But why we shouldn't do something like this? Because this way it's kind of the same if we will have everything in one file, and it's not safe. So in terms of informational security, in terms of protection from malware, from viruses, from kind of bad behavior, from hackers, you could say, it's always best to use header files, not include C files like this, but use header files as a layer. So maybe you heard word IP, so like interface, IP interface, maybe I heard about it. So basically H file, it's kind of such IP. How to do it? So let's create a header file. We would call it like let's call it I think we will call it global.h, or like our game goblin.h. We fight goblins, so let's call it goblin. But in most cases you wanna make separate h file for each source file. But as we have one quite small project for now, we will have only one header file. So yeah, we have our goblin.h. And what we put here? We put here definition of the function which we use separately. So do you remember I told you that a compiler, when it's compiled program, it goes from top to bottom. And if there is something on the top which you do not recognize, it wouldn't work. So if I'll move this hello world, this hello function, if I move it back to the bottom, then compiler, when he will meet this thing, it will break. He can't do it. So that's why we move stuff on the top, even though this function is actually it's more logical for human being to put it down. Because that's why it's how we read. We read like main, and then we want to read some other function. But in C it's like this. But how to deal with it? Some people, what they do, they move function to the bottom, yeah, because they like to read from top to bottom, and then they kinda just declare this function up right. So it's kind of possible to do it, and some people do it. It's kind of in C language there are a lot of different approaches to coding. So there is no real kind of standard how you must write all your program. All people has different amount of tab character or spaces. Some people use such comments. Some people do not like these comments and use only comments with like asterisks. So all people do differently, and it's also kind of different approach. So you could just define this function like this, like give a definition of this function, and then when compiler will read it, it will understand, okay, I know that there is such function, it exists, so it's somewhere, it's description of this function somewhere below, and he read, okay, now I see, and no, there wouldn't be any trouble. So what we do in our header file basically, we define function like this, like I just showed you. So we take this our battle function, and we put a definition to this header file. That's it. It's kind of what we have in our header file, and it's our API interface. So it's kind of, you know, what's API? It's kind of a black box which has some small wires out of it. So a black box with some wires, and by accessing these wires one could have access to certain stuff. So for example, he sent to our server A and he received B. So it's kind of it's what's IP is. So it's basically what's IP. And here it's kind of similar idea. So our program, our main program, will have access not to the whole C file with all its content. It will have access only to its definition. So it will send something to this function and it will receive something from this function, which is perfectly safe. It's what we want. So we include this function here, then text of this function in the battle C, and here we must include not C file but H file. You see? So now main C, we copy here content of not battle but goblin, but goblin H. But actually, yeah, right now it's more logical to call it not goblin but battle. Let's do it. So it will be easier for you to understand. So it's more logical. Yeah. So we include this header file. We could say that actually we include like library. We create our own library for battling. So here we could make lots of different functions, and all these functions, they kind of will be about battling. Example, I just want to, yeah, let's first demonstrate how it works. So we did it. Now, if we will compile, yeah, I'll do it manually for now. Let's do PowerShell. So now gcc main.c. If we will compile like this, you see it doesn't work. Why? Because we only include this file to compiler, only header file, and there is a definition, but there is no this function. We do not have this function. That's why we need to give compiler basically this C file too. And if we do it like this, you see, it works kinda, but we have a problem. We have a problem because in this file, in battle C, we use some functions which do not have headers. So you see, we had here header for standard input output for string, and in battle we also use printf. Printf function, it's function which existed in standard input output. So to be able to run this piece of code, what we should do, we should kind of insert it here. So now if we compile, you see, now it works. Now it works, and we could run our game. It is perfectly work. So it's how safely do it. But what I could say, there are also different types of using how to use it. Some people, they kind of this way, which I use show you right now, it's quite safe and good one. But some people, they prefer what to do. They move all header files to just one place like this. For small programs or for programs where you kind of work with small amount of developers, it's all right to do it. So how they do? I'm just showing an example. It's kind of not much people prefer it, because this way, which I showed you like this, it's kind of more or less standard way. But yeah, I just want to show you some other approaches too. So what you could do, so you wouldn't need to include this file here. Actually, you could include it like this, but do it in a special way. So what's the problem? Let me explain the problem first. The problem is that we kind of copy content of this file. We copy the content of this file to the app. So our compiler copied it. And here we copy this header again. So compile again, copy this file. And it's kind of, we're doing some excessive job here when we copy stuff several times. So how to protect from it? Yeah, there is a special thing which called header guard. This header guards concept, it's quite hard for now. So what I wanna suggest to you, just for tutorial purposes, just move all your libraries to this file, to battle H. So we move this, all our libraries which we will use, we would move it to one file. For big projects, it's maybe not the best practice, but yeah, for us, it's all right. It will do. And we will call now. So we will have one big library list which we use everywhere. And we will call our libraries. Yeah, now we will call it global. Finally. So now our global library file, global header, it will include all the libraries, and we won't need to include them everywhere. For example, in this battle C, the only thing which we will need to include in battle C, it's this include global.h. So now our code become much shorter. You see, in main C we have to include only our global H, so one library file. In the global H we include all the libraries which we will use later on, and also declaration of our function. And here we include also our libraries. Actually, I know that a lot of people, they will criticize this, but this approach, it's widely used. For example, in my game, multiplayer roguelike, which is based at Angband, which is also a quite famous game, all libraries, they included like this. So let me find main. It's kind of entry point. It's a real game, you see, and it has only one header file here, angband.h. So if we will find sangband.h, like this, you see this file already includes lots of different libraries, and also it includes some low-level libraries too. So I mean, this approach, it's all right, and for some projects it works pretty good, and for tutorial purposes it's especially useful because it makes code easier to read. And yeah, in C language there are a lot of different approaches. So for now we will go like this. So let's try to compile our program. Our name is Nick. Yes, and we could fight. Great. By the way, yeah, you see I returned back from the console where we used PowerShell. I returned back to Notepad, and how to customize Notepad run. I made a video about it, but basically I want to remind you that there is a file, shortcuts .xml, where you could actually, you see this line, you could change it. So when you change your configuration, so you, for example, want to include several files, then you could kind of do it like this. So now what we can do, we could also move our hello function to separate file. So like create a new file, call it hello.c, and move it there like this. But for now, it's not really good approach, because you should do it only when you have a lot of code. So this small parts of code, it's not really. We have too small amount of code for now. So you could just, what we could do now, we could just move this stuff. Like we will have our main file, and we will have our kind of functions for now. For now, we will have two files, but later on, when our program will become bigger, we will make more. So we rename this to functions.c. So now we have our main, we have functions, and we will have global. And now we should also define our functions and global. So hello, because we moved it here, and yeah, I use Notepad++. Here I change my build configuration directly. But if you just go with PowerShell, yeah, it's kind of easy. The same thing. Main.c, functions c. Yeah, you see it works. And we could test it. Yes, yes, it works. So now let me explain again everything slowly, because it's quite hard thing to understand how this header files work. So basically, what we have now, we have our entry point to the program main function. In this function, we include global header file, and this global header file will include all our headers. So if we will have like a lot of different header files, they all stay in this file. And also in this header file, we have definition of our functions, which we use in some other file, in this file. But you see, there is no link to this file, and in main file there is no link. We give this link only to compiler. So when we make our when we say our compiler GCC and we want to compile something, we include here our main C file and functions C. Yeah, and compiler understands that it should include both of these files. So you do not need to include it to your header. And functions also include this header file, because it's kind of our global header file, which we will include everywhere. What I could say, yeah, it's kind of big holy war, and a lot of people, they do not like such approach. and they say that you must include only each file, each C file, each source file should include only headers which it using. Yeah, so in our case here in our function we use so let's make it like proper. Okay, I just show you concept of global header file, and let's make it properly. But first, yeah, I think I must tell you about header guards, because it's very important concept, and right now it's much easier will be to explain it to you. So we will talk about it in our next lesson. We will talk about header guards and define stuff. But for now we will leave this structure with a global header file, so you will understand this concept. It's kind of more simpler, more comfortable to go with, but it has might have some problems if libraries has the same functions. It won't happen rarely, so compatibility will be a bit harder. Yeah, but yeah, first about define. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see your comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.